Welcome to Paint Along at the Plainfield-Guilford Township Public Library. Today we're going to go step by step through the creation of a fall landscape painting. So today, if you've not painted with us before, you'll want to refer to our materials list in a previous video. So as we begin, the first part is selecting our image and creating and designing the composition. So what we want to do, we want to arrange the elements in the painting so that it will lead our eye around the painting. Today I've selected two images that I really like, and we are going to combine these two images. We're going to put them together. So I'm going to invite you to take a screenshot of these images, and then we'll talk about them a bit. Here's a screenshot now. As you notice, the images I've selected, we have a really lovely soybean field. And you'll notice there's just a little bit of an indentation, an indication that a tractor or some type of machinery drove through that field, and you can see the trail that the wheels left behind. They go back into and they converge back in at the back at the horizon line. So I also had a photo of an old barn that I really liked. So we're going to combine these, put them together. Now you'll notice, if I were to put them here like this, we would have the barn almost in the center of the painting, and the trail is going to take us off the edge of the painting. So that would not be a good choice as far as arranging our composition. But if we simply switched these two, you'll notice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to match up the horizon line so it makes a little more sense. But you can see the horizon line leads back into the painting, and it takes your eye towards the barn. And then these lovely yellows and some of the darks that we have here, we're going to emphasize those so that what you're actually going to get is your eye will travel from the back part of this painting. It'll go back towards the back to the barn, and then it will come around in kind of a circle, making a really nice circular composition. So you'll notice that I have toned my canvas in this really beautiful golden orange. It shows a long format. I think that's going to work really well with what we've got going here. It's going to mix up a little bit of a bluish purple by adding, again, referring back to the color wheel, if I want purple, I need to add the primaries of blue and red. So blue and red make purple. And if you've not mixed a lot of color, that's really kind of what we're here to do. We're learning about mixing color. So you can see that's a beautiful dark purple. Going to work really well for sketching in. All right. Again, because this is a very narrow format, okay, this is what we're going to be focused on. All right. The horizon line, we don't want to cut it in the middle, and we want our focal point, which is the barn, to be over to the side. If you're not familiar with the rule of thirds, I would invite you to go online, just Google it, and you'll get a great explanation of why we don't want an object or a focal point to be in the center of the painting. And in this case, we're going to move the horizon line up. The sky is not the focus of our painting. The foreground and the grass and the soybeans will be the focus. So again, we're going to bump that up. Our horizon line is going to be set about, let's say, 1, 2, 3. It's going to be about 1/3 down from the canvas. So at this point, we're just going to, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It could actually have a little bit of a slope. That's going to be the horizon line. And then just above that, we're going to, you see we have a tree line, so I'm going to kind of indicate a tree line. It's for far away. All right. These are a dark value, so I'm just going to kind of indicate that on that horizon. Now, the next portion that I want to sketch in our barn. So, to take a look at the angle, what I like to do is use my brush. I'm going to just lay it right there on the angle, holding my wrist just straight. And this is the angle that I'm going to want right here. So I'm just going to kind of indicate that. In fact, I'm going to bump it over a little. All right. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Get that angle of the roof line. I think I want to actually move it over a little bit more. So I'm going to start over there. I think we're going to put it right about here. There we go. That's a little bit more of what I want. And now the roof line here. Then the line here. Now you'll notice it's just a little bit of an angle, just slightly, just down just a bit. I don't want to do that too much, but and here. And there's a tree back in here. All right. So now I'm also looking, there's a slant, you'll notice from here to here. There's a little lean-to type of building here, a roof line that actually changes. So I'm bringing this down and then right there. Again, checking that angle. That looks about right. Going to come straight over. Now this is a straight line. Actually, it's not. Just a little bit of an angle. And then straight lines on the edges. Straight line here. Soybeans are going to be filling in here, so we don't have to worry too much about this particular line. And there's an area here that is in shadow. And there's a pole here. Okay. That's kind of the indication of the barn. That's really all we need to know about the barn right now. All right, so now we're going to work on the angle of the tractor wheels. So I'm going to begin, let's say if this is 1/3, a second third. It looks like it's right about our first third. It looks like it's going to begin right about here. Right about there at the second third is where that line is going to begin. So, and then we're going to just take the angle, again, measuring the angle. It's going to go like that. Okay. And now I'm just going to indicate with this purple, this darker value. In here. Now we've got a second line that the angle is like that. Okay, so it's going to be more like this. Doesn't have to be precise. Again, a lot of this will be covered up by our soybeans. Okay, that's okay. I think my angles are pretty close to being what I want them to be. Now, another tool that we can use to bring our eyes to this will be to darken the corners, which is something that I like to do, particularly since this format is very, very long. We're going to use just a little bit of this darker value. And again, that's going to keep your eye in the center of the painting. And now just for interest, I'm going to add a little bit of this dark purple in here, just again, the soybeans. Here and there, just a difference in value, just to add interest. The value of the shadow of this barn is just a little bit darker, so I'm just going to go in and just kind of indicate that this side of the barn is in shadow. There we go. All right, I think that's a good beginning. So I'm really taking a minute to view the composition, and this is, if you want to make any corrections, this is a good time to do it. I don't like how this is so strong right in this area. As you can see, they kind of almost merge right here and they just fade off towards the barn. So I'm going to take some of my, take some water, just kind of scrub that out a little bit. Since I'm working in acrylic and it's just barely dry, I can erase that pretty easily. All right. So now I'm going to go back in there, grab some of that purple. And I want this to kind of go in this direction. Kind of indicate maybe even a fence line or something there. So. There's also a little shrub there that I noticed. I like that. I'm just gonna kind of indicate that just that this barn is maybe not tightly kept. Okay, I think that's better. This part right here especially, I like that better. Yeah, we'll go with that. I do like to work from the top down, or if you think of it from the back, working forward from the sky. So I will begin there. Because this painting is all about the foreground, we're going to keep the sky very simple. I'm gonna work down into the trees to get the green that I want. I want a cool green. It's very, very cool with a lot of blue. So to get that, I'm going to mix yellow and blue, but I'm going to add a lot of blue. So let's mix, take some of our yellow, pull some of that blue down here into it. A little more yellow. Being mindful, the sun, this was taken at almost noon. So the sun is coming from this direction, almost overhead. You can see that there's a bit of a shadow here beneath the barn, and there's also the shadows that are down here are almost straight below the barn. So again, the lighting is kind of like that. So that as we indicate that in the trees, the light will be over on kind of the top and the right. So I'm just going to pull in some of this dark color along the horizon line. Going to go with a little bit lighter, more of a sage, adding more yellow, maybe a little red, just to make it kind of a more of an olive. Again, we're getting starting to get a little red. It's September. It's the end of September. So we're getting some more brown indicated in some of these trees. Can't really see the difference in value there, so I'm going to add just a touch of white just to take it in more of a sage. There we are. Let's try that. There we are. That's a little bit better. Just using two colors, a cool and a warmer green. Warmer green has a little bit lighter value, and you can see that already those look like trees. All right, let's begin. Let's continue to kind of work through that. I'm just going to wipe off my brush just by putting, just wiping it off on this, because there are some, I want to get more color in this field. And I need to clean my brush, and I might as well put it on the canvas just to indicate some of this green, where the soybeans just haven't quite dried out yet. All right, there we go. Now let's work on the grays of the barn. Today I didn't really want to do black, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my own black, or a reasonable facsimile of that. I'm going to do that by making that deep purple again. Blue and red, make that really deep purple. Then I'm going to add just a little bit of yellow. And you think that would make it go lighter, but in fact it doesn't. It's going to take it more in the direction of a black. Maybe a little more. There we are. Now when I put this on the canvas, it will read black, or a very dark shadow, but it's going to have some liveliness to it. It won't be as flat as black would be. You can see there, a little bit of that. There's a very strong shadow on this side of the roof of the barn, right through there. And there's another strong shadow just below here. And there's another strong shadow here that we're indicating. I have a couple of places here where that's darker. Again, I'm going to clean off my brush. Nice to have some of those darker values at the base, at the lower part of the painting. Again, that helps move your eye up. Just going to indicate some of those. Oh, I'm blocking in right now. I'm not doing details. So let's not do that. So let's make gray. Adding some white to that. You can see it goes in the direction of purple. Let's take a little bit more yellow. Yellow and purple are opposites on the color wheel. They're opposites, so if we use them, they'll neutralize each other, going to kind of a gray, depending on how much yellow you've got in it and how much of purple. But you can see there I've got a really nice little gray, a warm gray. Add a little more white to that. If I wanted to take it in the direction of something cooler, I could add blue, a little more blue, just a bit. There, now it's a little cooler. It's about what I want. So I'm looking at this shadow right here. This is the side of the barn that we're talking about right here. Just blocking it in. The light's hitting the top, so that's going to be a lighter value, and it's going to be probably cooler. It looks just a little cooler there. You would think it'd be warmer, but in fact it's reading cool. So it's just needs to be a little lighter, a little more white. There we go. And then much more white for the side of the barn. All right. So now we're going to block in the soybean field. I want this to go more golden, I think. Again, just gonna put some of that in there. Just wiping off my brush, basically. I like that the gray, if we put some of that gray in the soybean field, it's gonna tie it in with the barn. Again, having some more unity in the painting. So let's block in now. The soybean fields are more golden, so we're going to make a beige. And to get there, we're going to mix up an orange. We do that by adding yellow and red to get orange, and then we will add blue to take it in the direction of a brown. Here we are. Now by adding blue, because it has a lot of yellow in it, when I added the blue it made green, more of an olive green. So that tells me I could add more red, or I could even add some of this purple. Either of those are going to take it more in the direction of a brown. See, adding red, did that. Adding blue, or adding that purple, takes it darker. It's a little too dark. I don't really want it this dark. Let's go add a little white to that, taking it in the direction of a beige. Now I'm going to add some white up here into this orange, this more orange, warmer soybean color with more yellow in it. We're going to use both of these, okay? So again, in the lower part, I want to go with some of this darker tone. Again, again, just blocking in. So I just really kind of want to scrub a little paint into it. It's okay if we have some of that orange peeking through from the background. It's great if we have some of these darker tones peeking through, some of the blues and grays. Right now we're just looking at filling in the color, getting a first layer. All right, that completes blocking in the color. I'm going to be working in the sky, and again, I'm going to punch up the color here. So up towards the top, I want to keep that kind of blue, maybe adding in a little bit of purple. I kind of played around with some of doing some tints up here, and we're going to use those in the sky and also maybe some down in the soybeans. So I've got some pinks going into some lavenders and mauves. Okay, then I've got it going into kind of a, let's move into the direction of some of these oranges. I'm going to add more white to it because again, I want them to be very pale, very soft. So kind of a creamy yellow, kind of a buttery yellow. And then some pale blues. All right, I think that will add some nice variety. So let's begin in the sky. I'm going to have the top, the highest portion of it being more blue. Still not what I really want. Got a little green in there, but I don't mind it at all. Takes it a little bit more in the, that's a little variety. Yeah. I'll wipe that off. Let's go with the pale blue again. A little white, a little blue. At this point, I think I want just a little red. So let's just kind of play with that purple again. You're in the top. Let's take a look at what that looks like. I think here at the horizon line, that is kind of what I want. I want it to go a little bit lighter, quite a bit lighter. looks rather impressionistic. That's kind of what I want to go with today. I want to really kind of press in and punch that up a bit. Maybe add a little yellow up in here. Not sure how that's going to work out. Kind of like it though. Again, just want to make it a little more impressionistic. Are you probably going to see yellow in the sky like that? No, probably not. But I like what it's doing in our painting. Again, just kind of working some of that into the sky. Just because we're not doing much in the sky today, kind of like the idea of. All right. Maybe even going into that purple a bit. Just a little red, kind of a mauve. Noticing some lines back here in the background that I really like. Just going to take some of this darker, that purple, that really deep color that we had earlier. Just going to kind of indicate maybe a creek or just a difference in land. Can't really, they're on the hillside. And what this will allow us to do is to kind of punch up the color that's right there just beyond it. By doing that, I'm gonna wipe that off because it's very dark. Let's go into this yellow that I had, this really bright, cool, this really warm rather, yellow. Oh yeah, see, I like that there. I need a little more. So just gonna kind of lay that. Just some little specks of it is kind of nice too. Because it's farther away, again, I want to kind of draw your eye back into this direction. This is where everything converges right back in here. So you can see there's kind of a purple. I'm going to mix some of that purple with this yellow to kind of create a gray. Right, and then I just want to kind of, again, don't want to lose that trail that I created here. And that gray makes it kind of nice. Okay, let's go in now and let's start to work on the foreground of these soybeans. I want to make them rather golden. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use this orange. I think I want the value to be a little bit lighter than it is on the canvas, so I'm going to add, again, more. Add more white. Still pretty bright, which I do want color in it, but I think I want to tone it down just a bit with some blue. Put a little blue in there and we'll see what we get. Yeah, I think that's a little bit more of what I want. Let's see what it looks like on the canvas. So if I were to just kind of indicate that here, back in the back, I'm just kind of taking that across. It's kind of what I want. I want to break up some of that black line there. In just a few places. Now I'm just laying in just some small horizontal strokes just to indicate those soybeans. See how I'm just kind of going across with my brush, just indicating. Here, just kind of indicating them. Don't want to cover up some of these beautiful layers that we've created. So just gonna just lay that across. Now, as it gets closer to you, the soybeans start to take on a different texture. They're going to be more spotted, more points, more like pointillism, actually. You're going to see individual soybeans, and so they're going to begin to be more vertical here in the foreground. So I want to indicate that as well. I'm going to start by putting some of these vertical lines in. We may go in later with a little, we may actually go in with some purple, I think. I think I want them to show up a little bit more, much more like we have here. So let's go back and do some of that purple. So I've got blue and red. Getting that beautiful little purple there. And now I'm just going to kind of indicate some verticals here. Do the same thing in this little row. This area needs a little bit of that purple in there. Cut. Now I'm ready to move to a smaller brush. You can see that that has a little bit more of a much narrower tip. I'm going to let the brush do all of the work here. All right, so let's begin. Let's get this soybean tone here that I want. Kind of want a little more gray, I think. So let's add a little blue, see what we get. Yeah, I think that's more what I want. Got a lot of color going on, so let's begin to kind of work that in. I want some darker tones. I'm gonna add that to these. Blue, red, touch of yellow. All right, so I'm going to live with that for a little bit, and we're going to work on the barn. Let's go back in. I'm going to mix up some of that dark purple again by mixing blue and red. Now I'm going to add yellow. Now I'm going to indicate some of the details of the barn. So let's begin with looking at the shadows. So there's a shadow here. And this may be too dark actually, but that's okay. I'm just indicating it here. It actually comes down a little more like that. There are some other areas of the barn, just some details, like some missing boards. Put some of those in. Just going to kind of indicate the slats here and there. There's a really interesting place right here on this door that the slats actually go horizontally. Of horizontal. There are also some areas where you can kind of tell that the barn's been patched with different wood, or a couple of areas that are kind of shaded. There are windows that are below this point. So they're about right here. Square window. There's another one right about here. Probably would have been another one right about there. So I want to put, I think, some color in the top. So it's already kind of gray, so I'm going to add a little bit of blue because you have the light of the sky maybe reflecting onto it. So we're just going to indicate some areas. Maybe go a little lighter right here at the top because I want a lighter value. I want it to kind of show up a little bit better. Maybe kind of like some of the color that's showing up in there. So here we're just going to take some of that barn. We want to follow the same angle as the roof line. Let's do roof line, keep that angle the same. Gotta add a little white. Throw a little yellow up in there too, if I can find any that's not dried out. Again, unity, I'm just going to kind of pull in some of the color that's maybe, just kind of play with this a little bit. It's okay for it to look like a painting, and it doesn't have to look like a photograph. Metal roof, so it's going to, a lot of possibility there. I'm going to go a little lighter. There's a very bright line right here at the edge. And then here we got a lot of brightening up this edge. Got some other paint in my brush, and I'm good with that. Pulling some of that down in here. You don't have to do every little detail, but occasionally like a little hit of a highlight on the top might be good to the edge. All right. I'm going to indicate some more color, but I think I want the values to be a little darker here. So let's just kind of put some of this gray. We've got some areas that are. Don't lose sight of the fact that the value of this side of the barn has to be darker. It has to be darker because it's in shadow. So you don't want it looking like this. You want it to be its own gray. Remember, I got that shadow way dark, so I'm going to go over it a little bit. Because it's a cool, so I'm going over it with just a little bit of a cool blue. I'm going to indicate all of that. I don't really want it to look too perfect. I'm going to just kind of indicate. I like how rustic that kind of looks. Maybe I might even go in a little bit with some of those darker values. And just, in a couple of places, just make those dark points pop. And you remember I did that by making purple and adding yellow. All right, so the darkest points that I'm seeing, I want to put right here. I think I want more blue. Better. So these really dark points where I'm seeing these shadows. Just that little edge of that window, just a little pop of it to be really dark. Not crazy about this spot right through here. I'm gonna go back over that with some white just to kind of calm that down. I don't like that harsh black. I don't want to lose the edge of this right here, that little hit of light. Spots here that are much lighter. I'm going to add a little bit more green and yellow here in the foreground, and then we'll call it a day. about yellow is it's very transparent. So if you want it to pop a little bit more, you can add white to it. It doesn't change the appearance all that much, but it will make it more less transparent. Help you there. See the difference there? All right, well, thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it, and come along next time, paint along. So because we've got such a long format, I want to add some verticals to that. So I'm just going to, with my liner brush, just going to indicate some weeds and some, you know, little tree limbs and that kind of thing that's right here. Just adds a little bit of interest in this corner, and again, helps the eye come around. And do the same over here to kick your eye up in this direction. That's it.